In this episode of Swim Against the Tide podcast, Christian Jakobsson, co-founder and MD of Medino, shares his journey from magician to leading an online pharmacy. He discusses the challenges and opportunities in building Medino, navigating regulations, leveraging technology, and the importance of leadership and team dynamics. Finally, Christian reflects on the impact of COVID-19 on their growth and offers valuable lessons to aspiring entrepreneurs around making decisions and having a go at new things in order to learn and develop. I hope you enjoy. Christian, hi, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Thank you very much for joining us. Obviously, you are the co-founder and MD of Medino, which is an online pharmacy site, which we're going to hear a lot about. But I already sort of know it's quite an interesting journey of how you've got here. So would you mind kicking off the podcast as usual by explaining how you are in this lofty position of MD of this wonderful business?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it depends on how far back I should go, but I think I grew up in Sweden, and that's where I studied business. And I think one part that I did during my business studies that maybe sounds insignificant, but has brought me to where I am is I took a gap semester where I just went to the Philippines and worked in an advertising agency. So I did an internship there. And the reason why that is important is that's also where I met my now wife when I was in the Philippines.
Has she told you to say that on the podcast? Give her a shout out.
So basically, she is Australian. She was traveling from Australia, passing by the Philippines, going to do a couple of years in London. And that's now I live in London. But so during that gap semester, I met her, went back to Sweden, continued and finished my studies. And also, this is something that I did during my studies and something that I think has shaped me to where I am today is I used to, don't do it anymore professionally, but I used to work as a magician. And that's what I did and helped fund my studies, throughout university. So
you perform, or do you actually perform on an evening and at weekends and stuff?
Yeah, so I ran my own business. So the offering was usually if it's during a dinner where I go around and I do mingle close-up magic for an hour or so. And then it's a sit-down dinner, and then I do a stand-up type of stage show. So it's a mix of comedy and magic. And that's, it's a quite nice informal way because you got first to mingle and talk to the audience, and then you go up and perform on the stage. And I did that. I started the business when I was 15, and then I did it throughout uni. And it was only when I moved to London when I was around 23, 24. That's when I stopped doing it professionally or semi-professionally.
Sorry, carry on with your story. That was just intriguing.
Yeah, no. So basically, after uni, I was considering if I should continue doing magic and do that full time or something else. And that's when I got in touch with an IT consultancy firm, and I went through the interview process to work in their sales department. And also on the final interview, I did magic, and that's how I sort of. It's still something that when I talk to the directors there, that they remember. That's the only time I've actually done an interview for a job since I finished uni. So I started working, and that was in Stockholm. At this time, my now wife, she had moved to London, so we did long distance between Stockholm and London, and I was working for this IT consultancy firm in Stockholm. But after sort of 1.5 years of that, I said I want to move to London, and I got the opportunity then to move with the firm and establish a UK branch. And that's how I then ended up in London. And this is sort of 10 years ago or something like that.
Fantastic.
And the concept of the IT consulting was, so I did project management and sales. And then we had software developers and engineers who went out into projects at clients and built websites or e-commerce or streaming solutions. We worked in gaming and mobile apps. And that's where the idea got sparked to, instead of helping other businesses, we have the knowledge ourselves to actually maybe build our own business. And instead of going in and helping other companies build our own company. And that's where the founding team started to shape in that IT consultancy firm. So we're now 4 co-founders of Medino. It's the CTO, who is Henrik, who worked with me in the IT consultancy firm. And then it's Lars, who was one of the founders of that consultancy firm. And then Victor, who we met in London, and he joined early on as a co-founder as well. He's also a software engineer. And so we started to think about having the knowledge in software development. Where can we bring that knowledge and make an impact? And having built e-commerce in the past, we saw an opportunity to build an online pharmacy, basically. So, and the reason for that is when we look at the pharmacy market, there are these major high street brands, and then you have small online players who no one has really taken a big grab and become the top of mind brand in the pharmacy space online. And that's sort of the opportunity we saw. But also when we started to look at how the supply chain works and the type of products that you sell in an online pharmacy, it became clear to us that we could use software to build a logistical, like an infrastructure for handling the logistics. And that's what Medino is. It's basically, it is an e-commerce online pharmacy where you can order personal care and medicines and prescriptions. But the thing that the customer doesn't see is what runs in the background, which is our own software, which does all the buying, all the warehouse fulfillment, the pricing, and staying on top of stock and creating this pharmacy with unlimited shelf space, I would say. Because if you compare us to a high street pharmacy where you might have 1,000 or even less products on the shelves, we have 12,000 products and sitting in our warehouse. So it becomes a great opportunity to offer more and doing it with software to make it really efficient.
Interesting. So your original spark of the idea that we don't want to read up on this was that it was solving a problem that you had personally, that you were trying to, on your way home, suddenly go, can you go to the chemist and grab this? And it was just always lastminute.com sort of angle, wasn't it? That was you were very clear in the problem that you were solving from the consumer's point of view, weren't you?
Yes, I think that when we look at the pharmacy at that time when we founded the business, many of the online pharmacies came from a high street pharmacy who spin up a website. And when you do that, you're sort of adding another revenue channel to your business. But for us, it was, how can we really use technology to build a site that's seamless, super easy to check out, and have really fast delivery? Because you still see competitors who are on the high street offering to pick up in store. So then you're losing sort of the whole aspect of sit at home, order, and get it delivered to your home. And that's also something that we were relentless on early on, was how do we minimize the amount of clicks for a customer to check out on the site. So I think that when we optimize the flow, when we're using the mobile checkouts, if you land on a product page on our site and you add it to basket and then you use Apple or Google Pay, I think it will be 4 clicks and then it's on its way to you. So making that seamless really easy, because pharmacy shopping, it's not that fun. It's like you do it because it's necessity and it's very transactional. Like you want a medication, you want a shampoo, you want a soap, whatever it is, you know what it is, you go in, you check out. It's not like browsing for fashion where you want to go to the store, you want to see the fabric, you want to feel it, you want to try it on. Pharmacy, I think pharmacy shopping is one of the ideal e-commerce, it's a sector that's ideal for e-commerce in that sense.
Yeah, I think that's just it, isn't it? Like you say, it's extremely transactional in a positive way. But I mean, it's an interesting sector to go into, because you've obviously, you as a team had great experience, like you say, from a software side, but it's a highly regulated, isn't it, sector. So did that consider when you were first setting up, or was it the fact that you just knew that there was this problem that could be dealt with much better with a great service?
The regulatory aspects were actually part of why we saw the opportunity, because the way pharmacy is regulated is you have to oversee the transaction and you have to oversee the dispensing of the medication. And if you, at that time, maybe there are players that could do it now, but if you would go to a third-party logistics solution, they would need to apply for a license for the physical pharmacy, which is where you would be holding the products in the warehouse. And they would have to oversee the packing process and have the documentation of these are the checks that we do in order to ensure that this medication is safely dispensed. So there wasn't really a possibility to actually use a third-party provider for something like this. So in order to actually build it, you had to navigate the regulatory aspects, set up a warehouse, and train your staff and oversee the whole flow. So we saw that as an opportunity, that it's a hurdle for other major players, because there are marketplaces and similar who had a big chunk of the market already in other sectors, but they can't really go into medicines and pharmacy without changing a lot of how they operate.
Yeah. Okay. And so, was it quite an arduous task to get like pharmacy licenses? Do you have a pharmacist working for you? Is that how it works? It's quite interesting from looking from the outside. It's just like a nice, lovely website that you can buy stuff on, but I'm assuming there's that behind it.
Yeah, absolutely. The first thing that we had to do as a founding team, because if I would say something that I'm really grateful for, is that the founding team covers a lot of critical competences that are needed to start a business. But one thing that we didn't have was knowledge in actually pharmacy. So the first task that we set out to do was to hire a pharmacist. And me working in sales, the way I did it, and I know that you do similar, is you go on LinkedIn, and I emailed 50 pharmacists, and then whoever wanted to talk to me, I took a call with and interviewed. Because it's also, you want to find someone who has the entrepreneur mindset and the spark.
Yeah.
Because when you want to combine regulatory understanding and being able to do something really safe with a challenger type of aspect that we come in being online. So it's a fine balance there, and having someone who really understands both sides was really important for us. So I did, I think, 25 meetings with different pharmacists and sent out offers to 2, and one of them accepted, and that was then who we brought on as our superintendent pharmacist.
Brilliant. And so there's not a limiting scale with that, is it? Once you have somebody with the qualifications and all the correct things, you can grow as big as you want in the UK.
Yeah. The pharmacist has a overall responsibility to ensure that the documentation and the compliance is set up, and then to train additional staff to work. So you have what's called standard operating procedures, which is like, these are the steps that we go through. Anyone on the clinical team goes through this when they assess a patient. And that's been set out by our superintendent, and then we have pharmacists who work in the business now and follow those steps.
Yeah, fantastic. I love it. So obviously you had the 4 co-founders. Are they all still actively in the business now?
Yes. So Lars, I mean, he is the chairman, so he is not working operationally. Like, he's not on the warehouse floor like the rest of us. But he
he's not on the tools, as we say.
He joins into all the meetings that we have, where we talk about strategy and we talk about how we want to keep growing. So everyone is still in the business and working in it.
Yeah. So obviously you had some experience when you set up the UK operation of the Swedish firm when you first moved to London. Was it easy of how the three operational founders fell into roles? Were you quite naturally know who was going to do what?
Yeah, two are engineers and clearly know how to build great software. For me, I think there is so much you can do. Like, the opportunities are endless in terms of where you want to put effort and what you want to learn or dig deeper into. I think that was actually a challenge for me to start, was to say, you have 100 tasks that you can list that are important, but which 5 are the ones that will actually bring this to the next, bring us to the next level? But yeah, and I still think that way the co-founders are working now, has been a real blessing in terms of that we have, all of us are open to doing various tasks, but we still have our own sort of expertise or areas where we thrive.
And with your probably more generalist background relative to obviously being a purist in terms of a software developer or programmer or coder, was it always natural that you'd fall into that more MD role with your sales background and that side of it?
I think so, yeah. I think a lot of the things in the beginning, when you're coming into a new industry, is to build connection and to set up those critical relationships that we still have to this date with, for example, suppliers and similar. So that was, if we look at my sales background, I think really helpful to be able to do that. And then when it comes to sort of who took the MD role, I think that was a very quick discussion, but quite clear that the engineers wanted to work with the software development.
Yeah.
So I think it was an easy decision to how to distribute the responsibilities.
That's cool. And so as the business has grown, how have you found your sort of leadership style sort of create itself and then evolve? Have you been very aware of that?
Yeah, the thing, or how I see leadership and how I like to work with the organization is I work and do the tasks that, like, I wouldn't delegate a task that I myself wouldn't want to do. So for me, it's really important that even if you have a title, to be able to help out with all the day-to-day operations if needed. That doesn't mean that I spend all my time buying, but I should be able to join in a buying meeting and sit and help out if that's needed. And also, for example, after a bank holiday, when we've had an influx of orders, everyone from the London office goes to Leighton Buzzard to the warehouse, and we all pack orders. Everyone has their calendar cleared so that we can get the orders out the door, because at the end of the day, that is the core service. It is to get the products to our customers. And if we can't do that, then sort of we're failing on the most fundamental level of what we are trying to achieve. So everyone is aware. And last bank holiday, all of us were there 9 a.m, started standing by the packing benches and packing parcels. And that's how I like to, I think that's my leadership style, that leading by example, basically.
That's great. And obviously you've seen that get results.
I think that you can do, there isn't anything wrong with having more sort of delegation and maybe use a more authoritative way of running a business. I just feel like that is how I manage to motivate my employees the best, and how to build a team that goes in the same direction. Because I've tried also to be a bit more when you maybe delegate and give more clear orders, and there seems to become a bit more of a split in terms of the relationship between you and the employee. Then is my personal experience. So I like to rather, if there is a problem that we've encountered, a challenge, to sit down with them and say, okay, let's try to figure this out together, and then we do it together. Because then it's not me saying you fix this and then leaving. I'd rather sit there and problem solve with them.
Yeah, and I suppose it's a wonderful way to spend time with your team and hear or actually physically see where you think, actually, why are we doing that like that? That's not the most efficient way. But also, I'm assuming when you're all packing, you're having a nice conversation, and you're nicely getting, it's like a 360 feedback, isn't it? Where you can be saying, what are the challenges? How can we help? How can we improve our service? Does that tend to happen?
Absolutely, because the software that runs the packing flow also. So say you go down to the warehouse, and then you put up your laptop on a packing bench, and then you say, I'm going to pick orders. Then the software will say exactly where to go, what to pick, and then you go to the trolley and you scan. There is so many things that can be optimized in that flow. And if you don't go there and actually work in that chain, what will happen is warehouse staff will find ways to solve problems that you could solve with software.
Okay.
And if you solve it with software, well, then it goes faster, and you keep evolving the system. But if you have a system that's just placed there and then you don't work with it and evolve it, then like the staff is really good at problem solving, but you can also problem solve on the software side rather than on the process side. And that's what we find is more optimal for continuing to scale the system and scale the business.
I think that's what's interesting, isn't it? Like you say, without getting your hands dirty, let's say, or rolling your sleeves up, you don't see these problems because you're not there every day. A classic MD wouldn't be packing things, but by spotting that, you're improving the efficiencies of this machine. And like you say, you then, rather than throwing bodies at it, which comes with its challenges, you're developing software, developing the system. So is that the reason why? Because I'm sure I know there are different, obviously, platforms for building an e-commerce website. There are different platforms for back end, but because you knew this was an evolving beast, it wasn't the sort of online pharmacy isn't a mature business yet, is it? By any stretch of the imagination, in terms, you've got your big high streets, but what you're doing is still in its infancy, isn't it? Really, and growing.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. So if you look at e-commerce penetration across all retail, we're seeing something like 30% of transactions taking place online. But when we look at pharmacy, there's not really official numbers on it, but I would be surprised if it's above 10%. It's probably lower than that. And there are a few reasons why that could be, or theories that we have. And one of them is the trust aspect that comes with having a local pharmacy on your high street that you're used to going to. But it's also about informing and communicating to the market that this also, there is a possibility to shop online. I think that one of the opportunities that we have spotted is that in other European markets, we have seen this transition happen, where it goes from being a fairly small part of transactions taking place online to grow quite massively. And we still see that potential in the UK market.
Yeah. But I suppose, is your model quite naturally transferable into other markets and geographically?
I think it could be, but I think that when it comes to medicines and healthcare products, there tends to be a few brands that customers are used to, and those are specific to every country or region. So I think that if you could take our software and place it in another country and run the whole fulfillment and operations, but it would still be on the buying side, and on the merchandising, what type of products you bring in, you would have to adjust quite a lot, I would say.
Yeah, because of the nuances of every market, yeah. And does your system kick out quite a lot of data then? Have you got some great insight on your customers, where they are, what their buying habits are, what the triggers are for purchase?
Well, when it comes to the purchasing behavior, there are quite a lot of rules in terms of what data we can. Being a pharmacy, also, we're regulated quite heavily on the data that we store in the system and how long we keep it for. So there is, like, you can anonymize data, and then you can see purchasing behavior in terms of how often do they come back, and measure retention. And you can also look at basket composition to see sort of, are we managing to educate the audience to put more of their pharmacy shopping with us. So yes, there is possibility to analyze those types of things, but it is also like when you're handling patient data and personal details, it also is quite an area where you have to be very careful with what you do with the data.
Yeah, no, definitely. I suppose it was more interesting to see whether you'd seen any trends. Like, obviously, your reason, one of your inspirations, was because you were busy, working hard, and you didn't have time to go to the pharmacy. Whereas, are you seeing good penetration of customers in cities rather than what, like you were saying there, where you're living out in a village and your local pharmacy is part of your little wander around, and you spend time and you're getting advice. It's that balance, isn't it?
We've looked at the geographical distribution, and it isn't actually a big difference. So you have more orders coming from the bigger cities, But that is proportion. So we're seeing orders coming from everywhere. So it doesn't really seem like it's a specific geographic type of aspect there. It seems like just in general, like we see orders coming from everywhere, basically.
Yeah, fantastic. And so, look, setting up the business, I know you've got the skill sets in the co-founders in terms of that, but there's still quite a bit of infrastructure to put in place, isn't there, with warehouse and storage? Did you guys fund that yourselves, or did you get investment? How did you kick off the business?
So we founded the business in 2017, and the site went live in 2019. So when we went live with the site, we brought in a little bit of seed funding so that we could just start to market and
marketing and stuff.
yeah. And continue to evolve the software. The co-founders we worked without salary for the first sort of 9 or 12 months or something like that. So it was a very like slim operations in the beginning before we had the site up and running.
The thing is, I'm really pleased you've shared that, because again, people look in from the outside and think, oh yeah, you'll start your business. It's like they don't always understand. They see you now heading this wonderful organization up. They don't understand that, not the hardships, but the sort of risks and sacrifices that a lot of entrepreneurs take when they kick off a business. And like you say, one of the key ones, and we've all done it, is the last person to earn is yourself. You'll pay anybody you have to do first, and you'll pay suppliers. And then if there's anything left, then right, we can go. We have some tea tonight. But
yeah, and that's a calculation we did early on. We sat down and said, okay, if we, because it becomes sort of you're investing not money, but you're investing time into the business, and then like. So instead of us putting in funding, we put in our time, and then how long can we go before we need funding? And then that sort of made an initial roadmap for how we saw the start of the business and when we need to launch and how we need to get seed funding to actually get the ball rolling.
Yeah. And so once you've taken that seed funding, did you take further investment after that period?
Yes. And that's when COVID happened. So we built the site, we set up a warehouse, very small warehouse if you compare to what we're operating out of now. I think it was sort of 2,000 square feet or something like that. So we had the laptops in the corner, and then we had a regulated like 2x2 meter box where we held medication, and then we had racking with non-regulated.
Yeah.
And then when COVID hit, that sort of the surge that we saw was a very like stressful and challenging period. I think we 4x'd our sales over a month. And it was from a fairly small volume, but still, when you're doing something 4 times, and at the same time, most staff are ordered to stay at home. So what we had was, I remember cycling to the warehouse, sitting there with our pharmacist, because everyone else was like on furlough or isolating at home, and then we had warehouse staff that ran the sort of operations there. But that was, timing wise, we had come to a place where the website was fully functional. The buying systems were working fine, so we could. If we look at the scaling challenges, nothing about the infrastructure, logistics, or websites had any problems. The problem was, how do you increase 4x warehouse staff overnight to be able to fulfill orders? Because also we had some things happening on the website where there were so many customers placing, for example, hand sanitizers in their basket at the same time, trying to check out at the same time. So we had like issues with overselling.
Stock issues.
Yeah. So then you don't want to put less stock on the site than you actually hold, so that you can counteract that before you build a fix that did like. So basically what we did was, and this is also the beauty of having your own software development team, is we saw it like 1 day later, we deploy something where it makes a check just at checkout, just when you press pay. That's when it checks the stock levels one last time, so that we can block any orders that are overselling. And then we keep a buffer in the warehouse to counteract any overselling as well, so we can send out the orders anyway. But yeah, that was a period of like where you could really see the beauty of how software can scale, but the sort of more other operations had a bit of a struggle.
So the investment was to keep up with the incredible demand. So it's quite a nice relationship to be asking for money, isn't it? We've got all these orders here, but we need to get the operational stuff to catch up with it.
Yeah, absolutely. So we brought in the seed investment. Then we started working and processing orders, and then sort of COVID hit, and that's also when we saw a boom in e-commerce in general. So, and that's when we then did another funding round, which was significantly bigger than the previous one, and then that then helped us fuel continued growth, and that was in end of 2020.
And did that, because obviously there's lots of conversations about when you take investment on whether it can change the dynamics of operationally how the business is run. How have you guys experienced that?
There is a like when it comes to reporting and showing numbers, I think that it's a healthy thing to have external investors from that aspect, because it really forces you to stay up to date with how you're working with accounting and how you present and identify key performance indicators, because that's also a really good way, for me at least, when I speak to investors. One thing that is really helpful is to say these are the key performance indicators that we look at when we determine if we're seeing progress. And then you can have a conversation around that with the investor, and then they can see how you reason and see your priorities. While as if you just have like a P&L bottom line and you say this is, then there are so many questions they can ask and so many things that you may not be able to communicate why it is the way it is. So that was a really good thing for me, I think, to set up really, like, so we sent out monthly reports. Now we're doing quarterly reports. We've tried both, and to set that up has been very good. But it is also, obviously, you want to always show growth and show great numbers, and that's the reality of building a business is that it won't. You do a projection, say we're going to grow, and this is how the curve is going to look, but that's not how the growth curve is going to look. It's going to go up and down, and you're going to have hopefully a trajectory that goes up. But on the way there, you will have dips and you will have tops, and quite often it's like you think, oh, we're going to grow incrementally these 4 months. What happens is it goes flat or even down, and on the 4th month, maybe you hit. Yeah. So you're sitting there working and doing everything you can, and you think is right, but nothing happens, and then all of a sudden you get that change overnight or over a very much shorter time.
That's interesting. And so you've obviously had a very positive experience, but and please take this as a compliment. You were, when you took that investment, you were still a very young leader, weren't you, in terms of an MD role? So was it nice to have someone to both bounce stuff off, but also to explain to you mistakes they probably made in the past and how you could sort of navigate those quicker and sort of develop quicker?
In terms of speaking to the investors, or I think that's I think because they have seen so many businesses and they have talked to so many founders previously, so they have insights that really can help you. And especially in terms of, I think that they are really good at asking questions where you're looking like 6 months, 12 months, 18 months ahead and thinking long term. Because when you're in a business and you're running a tight ship with quite a slim team, you tend to look at like, oh, what do we need to achieve this week? And what do we need to achieve like maybe 2-3 weeks ahead? But to think about like where are we going to be in 18 months, that's like a perspective that I think the investors have been really good at talking about and asking questions about, so that we also keep mindful about it.
Yeah, there's a saying, isn't there? Sometimes when you're involved operationally running a business, you can be in the reeds too much and not actually see where you're going, or not see either opportunities or problems that are coming your way that they can make you stop and think. That's really healthy, isn't it? I think that's great. I think that's how we all learn. And I think you also described them as well, because I think what people forget is someone is investing in you to obviously get a return on their money. So as a rule, most of them are aligned to help you win, aren't they? I think do you call them cheerleaders?
Yeah, I mean, because that's they when you, like, obviously if you present numbers or performance that isn't keeping up with your forecast or your projections, that's obviously they would like to see something else. But like they still have, when they analyzed the business and the opportunity, they saw the same things that we saw when we spotted this and we started the business, and then they want to help you achieve that as well. So I think that it also, and that's with all relationships, is depending on how you come in and sort of what your frame is in that relationship, then yeah, you could also come in and feel pressure and feel like they're just questioning how things are going, and then that's the way the conversation will go. But if you come in and you're both seeing opportunity and trying and saying, okay, we're going to make this happen, then you're going to have a completely different conversation. So it's important to remember that, I think.
Yeah, it's very healthy, isn't it? Yeah. You've mentioned a few times about when you've seen a I think your aim, isn't it? Sorry, I'll rephrase that question. I think your aim is to always run a very efficient and lean business because you believe that's the best way to scale it. Is that fair to say?
I would say yes, that's fair to say. I would say also that is something that has become very much clearer to me during this journey. I think that when we look at like scaling and keeping a slim team, a slim operation, to me, it's like you can think about the tasks ahead and the challenges and how you approach them as scaling out of anticipation or scaling out of necessity. And I think that for me and how I viewed it early on was a lot of anticipation, in the sense of you're thinking forward and you're trying to fix things because they might happen. And if you do that, you end up fixing things that actually like it doesn't happen. So you're spending time on the wrong thing. Instead, trying to, and this is a fine balance, because you don't want to run into where you're scaling out of necessity, like and you're stressed out completely all the time. But I think it's healthy to sometimes wait with new initiatives until you see where is the effort actually needed, and then go for it. So I think something that we did early on, where I think I would have done something a bit differently in terms of how we brought in external marketing companies to help us. And that is, we bring in funding, and we have a sort of anticipation to grow. And then you bring in agencies for SEO and for PR and for pay-per-click, for example. And thinking that that's what then's going to take us to the next level in terms of growth. But in reality, it would have been better to try to build the marketing capacity a bit more in the organization. Try to get a concept that really works well, and then tell an agency, this works for us. Now 10x the output on this so that we can keep growing.
Okay.
So I think that, just balancing that and knowing that you need to get to a certain point before you start to do these, like to anticipate more growth, if that makes sense.
I suppose as well, being on the end of briefs like that sometimes, when a client truly understands their businesses, the briefs tend to be better because, like you say, they've sort of been there and done it, but realised they don't want to invest in a bigger team or more software now. They want to actually go, right, we've proved this concept. And to your scale, can you now scale this, please, yourself with your expertise? Because you can't be I think a business that tries to be the king in every single area always fails. You've got to know what you're good at, which is the logistics side, the operations, the software, anticipating products that you need, the sale, and then being able to scale. And like, if you try and do everything, you'll fail, won't you? Because you won't ever have that horsepower at the right level for every area that a business needs to operate.
Yeah, but absolutely, I absolutely agree. I think that what would have been better would be if we built up the marketing capacity a bit more in the company, then we would have been better buyers, because we would be able to say, this is what we need. And then if an agency can't do that, then okay, cool. But now we came in and had quite an open slate in terms of like, how do we, like, what basically, like, how do we scale this together, instead of saying, this is what works, now help us do it. So I think it's just about like finding a balance there where you build up the capacity in-house a bit before you go out to a third party.
Yeah, it's very honest to say that, isn't it? But you sort of learn, maybe slightly painfully, by that agency was probably operating fine, but the brief, as you've worked out, wasn't quite right then. And as it evolves, now you get it right. Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing to say, isn't it? Running your own business. I'm sure you're not going to sit there, Christian, and go, yeah, every day's been perfect. We haven't had a problem. We've never dropped the ball, as we say. But a lot of people, they've been on the podcast, talk about that as their better days. Once they've got the context, as their better days, because it's where they've learned and realised we've got to solve that going forward, because that'll make us a better business.
Yeah, I mean, it comes back to the necessity. It's like you see something that's like in your face, we need to fix this now. If you look at the type of solutions that you come up with when you're faced with that, it is stressful at times because you have to fix it now. But the solutions are great, and that's
a lot of people talk about the clarity they have under pressure suddenly.
Yeah.
Whereas if you've got time, you might meander this way then that. But whereas if you've got to make a decision, you go bang, and you trust it. And that's where a lot of people talk about. Perhaps it's a good question for you. Is your decision making process a very analytical one, or is it a sort of a gut and a feeling now? You've been doing this for 7 years. You've built a great business. You had some good experience before in sales, within software, and setting up a business. So how would you describe that now?
So making like the big decisions and how I approach it. Whenever I am making a big decision, and this is, I mean, it's the I would say that I'm very data driven in general when it comes to making decisions. So if a colleague comes and asks me, should we do X? I will most likely try to ask and see how have we actually looked into data or looked into impact here before we make a decision. So for me, I'm very analytical and try to be rational in the decision making, and that sometimes can slow down decisions because you have to gather information and background. But from my experience, that has helped me in steering the decision making in the like being on the right path to start with. So also when we talk about having a small team and slim operations, the extra time that it might take to research something is still something that compared to a large corporation, it's not very big. It could be like, a few hours of looking into data and then making the decision rather than saying immediately, this is what we should do.
Yeah. And do you make decisions as a team with your other co-founders? Is that something that are you still very close operationally in terms of that?
Every morning we call in, have a morning meeting. It's always scheduled half an hour, and sometimes it's 5 minutes, sometimes it's half an hour or more. So we're and we always discuss those like bigger decisions together to make sure that we are aligned.
But that's very healthy, isn't it? Because you've got a comfort in numbers, and gradually, I bet over the years you've found out where the strengths lie. When naturally one of you will be a better problem solver of that challenge that you have. Because a lot of people say it's nice to have a partner in business because it can be lonely, can't it?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's sort of when I looked at the document that you sent me, what has sort of gone well, and it's one of those things that you can find specific things that you have done well and that has gone according to plan or even better. But I think that if you look at sort of the whole journey as a founder and building this business, it is that we actually have a founding team that work well together, that complement each other on the competence and sort of still manage to have like good relationships. Because I think that that's one of the, I mean, we still hang out on weekends and still do stuff even after work. So I think that one challenge for a lot of startups and businesses is that the founding team, if there's a falling out, then it's very problematic for the business.
Oh, 100%, yeah. Because and there will be times where you, for no real reason, that you put that relationship's put under pressure, isn't it? And I think if it's a good one, you might have slightly raised voices, but that'll be the challenge that you're giving each other to take the business to the next level.
Absolutely, and but I think also to make sure that you have tools for handling if you get into an argument. That for us, it's and that's like with any relationship, that you have to create a place where you then can discuss whatever it was that you had an argument about. So all of the co-founders, we have one-on-one sessions booked every week also. So aside from having the morning meeting that's scheduled, we also have a one-on-one session, and that's usually half an hour or an hour, where anything that we need to vent, we go through.
Nothing festers. You get it. You clear the air.
I mean, with that, we try. Like, it's not perfect. Obviously, it's like but it gives an opportunity to really make sure that we stay aligned, and that if we have an argument, we can sort of clear it.
Yeah. So it's like a marriage, isn't it? just with different rules.
Yeah.
So go on, and as you put your head up and look forward now, how is the future looking for Medino?
I think it's really exciting when I read about the sort of how e-commerce and shopping behavior and convenience keeps being a key driver in consumer behavior. And I think that we are in a good place in that sense. I think that the average pharmacy, or the average customers, usually goes to the pharmacy 10 times a year. And for us, we've built a platform where we can accommodate for that, and customers can come back and buy everything they need from the pharmacy from us. I think that's really exciting to be in that position when you also have this potential transition to digital. And for me, when I look at like the brand and where we want to be, it's still, as I said in the beginning, there's no one who has really taken the top of mind space of being the brand. Because on the high street, you have the major pharmacies that everyone knows this is where I should go to get my personal care or my pharmacy medication. I think that there's still an opportunity for us to take that, and that's really exciting, to build that brand and become that top of mind for online pharmacy shopping.
I think you're right. And, you know, when they, because I think a lot of it is sort of fear. You know, I've had prescriptions in the past, and you think, oh no, I've got to either take that bit of paper or it's now digital, but I've got to be there and I've got to be real. Whereas you can deal with my prescription, can't you? Simply, it just gets sent to you, not to the local chemist. But mentally, people think that's not how it works, the system. So part of it is you're educating an entire market as to, hey, there is a better way. Don't have to get the bus. You don't have to drive, park, spend money, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I mean, there some will prefer to go to the chemist and have the chat with the pharmacist face to face. And I think you can see the same with any type of sector where for shopping, that some will want to go to the shop, and that's fine. But I think that there is, as I said earlier about pharmacy being an ideal type of sector for e-commerce, because also when you think about going to the pharmacy, when do you actually go? You go when you're not feeling well and you're sick. So you're going to stand there in a pharmacy with other people who are sick to get your medication, when you can just order it and get it delivered to your door.
Yeah.
So in that sense,
and normally it's at the end of a busy day, isn't it? You're trying to fit in, you're getting back for the family, for the kids. It's just like it's not a positive experience, let's call it, is it? Is it like, back to you said at the beginning, it's a necessity. So if you can outsource that with a superbly efficient operational, and I'm assuming the cost isn't much more either, is it?
If you look at the pricing that we have compared to the high street, we were priced better. And then you have £20, you get free shipping with us. And then if you do £35, you get free next day. So one thing, and we didn't touch upon this, but one thing that we really have tried to push is like late cutoff. So we run the warehouse until 10 in the evening, and we have a late pickup at like 9:30. So anyone placing orders, we pack it until the pickup arrives, and then we ship it out. So we would be able to, if you order at say 8 in the evening, we should be able to get it to your door next day.
So that's incredible, isn't it? Because that's when Amazon have set this standard now, haven't they? Where you expect that with a lot of home shopping, and when you can't get that, you go, well, that's negative, even though you just get your head around the operational requirements of that. But that again is something to shout from the rooftops, isn't it? That look, if you're feeling that it's 7 o'clock, you've missed your local pharmacy, well, you could still have it tomorrow if you're going away on holiday and all that sort of thing.
I think that we're quite early with that. And I think if you look at like the reviews from way back of Medino, that's something that customers were like, it was a happy surprise. They're like, oh, it arrived the day after. Now it has, as you say, with Amazon setting a new standard, it's almost expected to be one of the options at checkout. So it's really interesting to see how that has changed and the expectation has changed.
I love it. I love it. Well, I'm really sorry, Christian. We're starting to run out of time, as I always do, because it's such a fascinating chat. I always like to finish on one question, which is around, the young magician that was starting this business 7 years ago. I love that. I can't believe we've not done it. We'll have to do another follow-up where you just do some magic for us.
Yeah, sure.
But starting Medino, is there something that you've learnt on that sort of 7-year journey so far, which is still very young and still growing fantastically? Is there something you learned that you'd love to go back and tell slightly younger Christian, just to save a bit of pain or heartache on the way?
Well, I think back to what I talked about earlier with this trying to decide, should I become a magician or should I do something else?
Yeah.
The thing that I would tell myself would be something along the lines of, you can always switch and do something else. Like, and I think that's also when I reflect on my journey as sort of the type of competence that I've tried to develop and the type of skills that I've built. It's sort of, when you talk about magic, it's presentation and it's sort of the social skills required to do a good business meeting, for example. And then you go into sales, where it's about negotiating and it's about presenting an offer and navigating sort of decision-making processes. And then you go into pharmacy, where now I work with some of our accounting, I work with marketing, I do some of the buying, and I'm also working with logistics optimization. So what I would say is, like, many of the decisions that you think are like, I have to choose this or that, they are not. You can go back and you can change. And also, as long as you have that mindset of, I'm willing to learn something new, you can do that for your whole life. Like, you don't have to say, I'm a specialist at marketing, so that's what I'm going to do for the rest of my career. And I think that if I would have told myself that would probably have, helped me a bit in my, and ease that decision making a bit more.
Yeah, because sometimes we overthink, don't we, these things? And like you say, you go with a gut and realise nothing is forever, and you can. And I think that's a great thing, isn't it? Now, the access we've all got to potentially learning new skills or learning new areas or getting data around to make those decisions is fantastic. So yeah, I like that. That's good advice. Hopefully my sons at university will be hearing this and thinking, right, I think the key thing, though, the interesting thing you said was, you have to make a decision. Now, the fact is, it's just not forever. Because I think that was one of the worst things, if you ponder and get stuck, then that's much worse, because you sort of don't do anything. So it's better to make one and then pivot if it's not quite right.
Yeah, absolutely. And once you've made the decision, also, I think it's also important to really go hard on that and become good at it. So if you choose, like, I'm going to develop a certain skill, then become an expert at that skill, and then you can change and do something else. So it's about, like, deciding and then going for it until you have enough information to say, oh, I'm going to continue, or let's go back and redo this.
Brilliant. Christian, I love it. Thank you. And congratulations on your success for you and your team so far. I will be certainly looking into it, because I hate going to the bloody pharmacy to pick things up. So there you go. Look out for my details on your system soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you.